Today we're going to be taking a look at the Bandai Ultra Action Ultraman Trigger, Glitter Trigger Eternity, and Trigger Dark. Trigger Dark debuting in episode 11, and Glitter Trigger debuting in episode 12. As stated in the last video, they both have a very new history to the series as they are whole new forms, but they are following the TIGA trend as the show has, at least to some extent. Trigger Dark is easily one of my favorite Ultra Action figures right out of the gate, and Glitter Trigger is quite nice. Still looking like a glittery pasta stain though. I'm really anxious to get started talking about these in full, so why don't we go ahead and start talking about paint and detail. Up first, we'll be talking about Glitter Trigger Eternity, and as you can see, in comparison to his vinyl version, yeah, he's got a lot more paint, and I'm kind of missing the all-gold arms. Yes, I know, that's not accurate, but something about just gold. Simple-minded ShinRobjira. He likes the glittery, sparkly stuff. Though I really do appreciate the larger presence of more metallic paint. Although, just like Atlas Destroyer, you can kind of tell what's painted gold and what's been molded in gold. Take the head, for example. Very nice and very shiny. And you take a look at the arms, and yes, they're nice and shiny, but they're a shade lighter. Personally, that really doesn't bother me, but I just felt the need to, state it. So taking a look at the head, we have some fantastic detailing, but we do have some spotty paint on the golden streaks over here. Thankfully, the front-on shot is a little bit nicer, and the opposite side did fare a bit better when it comes to paint, but we still do have some splotches. But oh boy, that detail. The entirety of the torso area does feature a lot more paint than the vinyl counterpart, which does indeed leave it open for some mistakes here and there. But for the most part, I dig it. Yet again, the arms are not all gold. They do feature some metallic orange paint and some orange plastic, not to mention some silver paint as well, which is also metallic and shiny. Bit of an articulation spoiler, but this is a bit jarring, isn't it? Maybe not jarring, but noticeable, I should say. Speaking of which, pasta vodka stain. Just look at that, but it's nice and shiny, so I don't care. Like most Ultra Action releases, the backside really doesn't feature much paint. Actually, looking at this figure from the front end as compared to what he looks like in the show, it's pretty dang close. So I can't really complain. Do love the paint where it is paint, do love the detail where it is present. Though for the most part, Glitter Trigger is kinda bland in that category. Yes, he's got lots of it, and yes, he suffers from the Ultra Action half-paintedness, as shown here. But I don't know, somehow I'm kind of liking the 500 series version more. I don't know, man, this just feels cooler to me, I guess? I really can't put my finger on it, but I really do think it's the all-shiny paint. God, I'm simple-minded. But anyway, personal opinions aside, this is a very nice-looking figure, even if he does look like a metallic pasta stain with a face. And just like his vinyl counterpart, he is definitely going to be an eye-catcher in your Ultraman collection. Yet again, unless you have a lot of really shiny, golden, glittery Ultramans in your collection. Wow, that was poorly timed. Also, Ultramen. I do have my things to say when it comes to the paint, but overall, it's very nicely painted. So paint is going to get a solid star, and detail's going to get a solid star. Let's move on to the star of the show. Shh, be quiet. He's silently brooding like people are watching him. Now when it comes to Trigger Dark, my opinions are actually reversed. I prefer the Ultra Action over the Ultra Hero 500 figure. And I really don't think I need to explain why. More paint, more spikes, a lot more detail, and come on. This guy's just in a completely different league over this dude. See how much more a black background on the chest would have helped this figure out? But anyway, side by side with his show counterpart, it's not 100% accurate, but it is fantastic regardless. Look at these two together. Oh my god, this just gets me all the more excited for an SH Figuarts release. So I'm not going to lie, I'm probably going to gush a bit more over Trigger Dark Ultra Action because he's got his mystical guy liner on. The beam lamp up there, if that's what it's officially called, is properly painted. The metallic copper streaks on his head reach all the way to the back of his head. And just look at these shoulder spikes, so very edgy. They're also much more present on this figure than on the Vinyl 500 series figure. And they're semi-rubbery as well. They're definitely not as soft as I thought they would be, but very nice. And again, that detail. Lovely, lovely, lovely. Not to gush over the chest again, gross, but the paint and the detail on this guy is just fantastic, but a bit messy in this general area. I don't see it much, a little bit over here too and a little bit over there, but I don't care. Look at that detail, man, and this is another thing that I actually forgot to mention in my 500 series review. The Trigger Dark cufflinks on this guy are going to be painted all the way around, which is a surprise to me, whereas typically on the 500 series figure they're only painted on one side, barely even that, and it just aids in making the figure look all the cooler. I also really do love that the little spiky thornies on the forearm over here are present and not directly on the mold, and they too, like the spikes on the shoulders, are of a softer material, but not too soft. You know, I honestly didn't notice that this was half painted until now. Too much fanboying, I guess. And it only gets better when we get to the lower half of the figure. Yet again, we are going to get more of these soft, very soft actually, spikes on his legs over here. That is meant to obviously help with articulation, which, while cool looking, is a bit on the limiting side, at least splits-wise. But we've got more of that sparkly copper on the thighs over here. And unfortunately, that's kind of it when it comes to the metallic copper over here. There is nothing more present throughout the figure beyond the front part of the thighs. Though we do get some nice black paint over here, which definitely helps in breaking up the bland silvery look the figure kind of has. In some areas, at least. Yet again, Trigger Dark's back looks like a face hugger or head crab from Half-Life. He does not feature any paint on his backside aside from these golden cuff linkies, but the detail is all the same. Present and fantastic. Oh wow, they painted the back of his head. Holy crap. I have a bit of a bias for this figure. I will openly admit that. I can't even make an attempt to tear away any of that bias because the figure really does just look fantastic and is easily one of the best looking Ultra action figures I've picked up thus far. Bit of an articulation spoiler, but his collared area over here is going to be of the same softer plastic as the spikes all along his body. More paint, more detail, more love. Solid star in terms of paint, solid star in terms of detail. Let's check out articulation. As demonstrated prior, you can go all the way around at the head. You will have to navigate these, so do be a tad careful. The arms can go all the way around like so, with a flapping motion. In case you're wondering, yep, Trigger Dark can do the same thing. You will get a nice swivel at the bicep and a bend at the elbow over here. You will also get a nice and tight swivel at the wrist, as well as a segmented finger movement, which you can then separate into twos, like so. He's ready to pull the trigger. Now, Trigger Dark can do the same as well. It's a bit on the harder side when it comes to moving his wrists because of these cufflinks, which will, yet again, as I forgot to talk about, be a bit on the softer side. And I am a little bit worrisome when moving his hands around because I'm afraid they're going to snap, because I have seen Ultra action figures and their fingers snap. So I try to not move his wrists too much. Moving on, Trigger Dark can do the splits, and honestly, he can do the splits a lot more than I really thought he could. This is a very malleable plastic rubber vinyl going on here. Although he can't do the full splits like Glitter Trigger. Glitter Trigger can go all the way. Actually, I think they're just about the same. Hold on. Okay, yeah, no, not really. Dark Trigger does have some limitations there, but are you really going to be making your Ultra dudes do the splits? I mean, I'm not going to judge you if you are. Splits are cool. Both figures can kick up about that far. Nothing too Ultraman great about kicking backwards though, despite the presence of some Ultra cheeks. You're gonna get a whimsical bend at the knee, a very fine whimsical bend at the knee, and you're also going to get a ball joint at the ankle for some decent pivots and some decent points up and points down. Yes, even with his evil elf Tims over here, Trigger Dark can get some good pointing up and down motions. Not so much of a great pivot though, because these do be blocking. The posability is standard, somewhat limiting, but also just fine for the asking price. You can get these guys into more than acceptable battle poses and near show accurate stances as well. If anything, they're a great taste tester for that of SH Figuarts, which will likely show up at some point in the future. They feature a bit more paint than their vinyl counterparts, making them all the better for those turned away from the 500 series and its lack thereof size, paint, and posability. Honestly, I couldn't recommend these guys enough, and again, if you're too impatient to wait for the SH Figuarts releases that I'm 100% sure are coming, these guys are perfectly fine as is. Both of these figures are lovingly outfitted with some very nice articulation, but I'm mostly surprised with Trigger Dark over here. The only area that he's really limited in is going to be his ankles because of those crazy little elf shoes he's got going on. But it's nice to see that he wasn't wholly neutered in being, you know, accurate. So, a solid star for articulation, another solid star for articulation, 3 solid stars all around. I honestly couldn't recommend these figures enough, and if they're still in stock, I will have a specialized ShinRobjira HLJ link so you can all nab yourselves a copy. And, you know, help the channel out just a tidbit. But anyway, that's about going to wrap it up for today, everybody. Patrons, thank you so much for becoming ShinRobjira patrons. Remember to check out that HLJ ShinRobjira affiliate link. And, you know, social media, merch page, all that good stuff. This will likely be one of the last Trigger reviews that I do on a regular basis. I kind of have to pull the brakes on these weekly releases because, you know, Sham Ultima is coming out. There's a couple of things coming out in November and December I really want to save the budget up for. Get excited for all that. And if you really enjoy these videos, you should be vocal about that in the comment section down below and let me know that you'll be missing them. If not, we have Shin Ultraman stuff to look forward to very soon, I imagine. But anyway, that's it. I've been ShinRobjira. Do so hope you enjoyed all of this stuff all over again. Thank you all for watching, and once next we meet, maybe I'll finally release Mego Ultra 7. Until then, everybody, peace.